ATP Tour and Web3, a new paradigm for tennis.
Good afternoon, AIBC. My name's Stefan Kovach, and I'm going to be taking you through, as Olga said, the sports meets Web3 track, which will play out over the next hour and a half. We've got lots to cover. We have an absolute A-list cast of speakers with us, covering everything from sports rights holders to agencies, to products builders, entrepreneurs, metaverses, you name it. Quick introduction to myself. I've been in the space since 2017, helped build and run a decentralized gaming platform. And then for the last 2 to 3 years, I've been running an advisory service called Rarerthings, and one of the key areas we focus in on is sport. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Mark Epps, the Director of Communications and Web3 for the ATP.
Hi, Stefan. Thanks for having me.
No problems. Thanks for coming out here, Mark. So Mark and I know each other. Mark is a good friend of mine. We've worked together over the last couple of years. So I'm really excited to kind of unpack some of the learnings from inside a sports organization. So let's just jump in. Why initially did the ATP get interested in Web3? It's quite a traditional organization. It's quite a complicated organization. What was that initial catalyst?
Yeah, excellent question. I guess as a just sort of scene set, we are the ATP Tour. We are the global governing body of men's professional tennis. We oversee a global tour of events, 60 plus events starting in January, ending in November. And we also represent the top men's players in the world, from world number one, Novak Djokovic, right the way down through the rankings. So yes, it's a really good question. Why is a global governing body looking at Web3? I'll be honest, it was Top Shots that kicked off everything for sports. NBA really paved the way in showing, hey, we can launch new products at very little marginal cost and make millions and millions of dollars. And as a sport, we weren't alone in seeing the financial opportunity, which we saw that proliferate and play out, and we saw the market cycles kick in. But over the last 3 years, that thesis has really matured beyond making money. This tech has a very profound ability to connect you directly with your fans and consumers, which is probably problem number one that sports face. Our relationship with fans is often intermediated by broadcasters or by social media, and not owning that direct connection with fans is very costly as a business. So that's the way it's evolved. That's why we're interested in it. And I consider myself very lucky to be working at a sports rights holder that's willing to take risks and to explore in this space. So,
absolutely, and I think that's really insightful, and I'm sure we'll kind of revisit that in the panels that are coming. This kind of shift from seeing it as a monetary opportunity, and I think probably for a lot of rights holders, the sponsorship piece of yesterday or the last bull market was also a significant play, and then how that's moving. Before we dive into these specific projects, and I love some of these projects that you've actually initiated, what's your journey into the space? How did the Director of Communications become Web3 expert, and what does that mean within a big organization? Are you the kind of guardian for that?
Yes, so my personal connection to crypto, I started in 2020, fell down the Bitcoin rabbit hole like so many people did, became captivated with the technology, the humanitarian side of the tech. As you said, my role at the tour, I have quite an unusual title, corporate communications on one side and Web3. The answer to your question is that I was the crypto guy at the tour. And so, I put my hand up very early on and said, I'm interested in this tech. I think there's opportunity. I think because of the complexity and the time required to wrap your head around Web3, it often falls on potentially more junior people at companies. Web3 is something that started out as sitting under our business team and our chief business officer. And to put it quite bluntly, especially with what we've seen in the last couple of years, we just have other priorities as a business. So it was natural for somebody, at my level to take on the role. And yes, I guess I am the face and the guardian, as you put it, of Web3 at the organization. It's been, as I said, really empowering for our management to say, hey, we see an opportunity, go out and take some risks. And it's also been fun to help educate and to help bring people along the journey within the ATP and within the wider tennis ecosystem. So we'll talk about a couple of projects we've launched to date, both very different, and we've got big plans about where this is going and what it could mean for our sport. So lots of positive momentum.
Cool. Yeah, I can only imagine the kind of the role of educating, the organization. I know that from kind of an outside perspective. It's not just, educating the immediate stakeholder, it's the accounts team, it's the legal team, it's the C-level, it's et cetera, et cetera. So kudos for you for doing that. So let's talk about some of the projects. And as I said, there's some projects in there which I think are absolute kind of gemstones in terms of how to start experimenting within sports using Web3. So the first of those projects was, I think, a year ago, last November, the ATP
Correct.
Finals. And the ATP Finals, I guess, was chosen because you have more control over that versus the Tour. And the initiative was called Love. So tell us about Love.
Correct. So Love was our first play in the Web3 space. It was a generative art collection that we launched together with Art Blocks and a wonderful artist called Martin Grasso. And as Stefan mentioned, the project was built around our year-end finals in Turin, the NITO ATP finals. The whole reason that we delved into that particular niche of Web3 was born firstly out of our constraints, what we can't do. So as a governing body, we have a number of constraints. Probably the best example to give is around the use of player IP. Unlike an NBA team or the Premier League, we have no right as the tour to leverage players' name, image, and likeness. So we have broadcast constraints, we have IP constraints, but the one thing that we do control end-to-end is data. And tennis is probably the most data-rich sport in the world. There's just huge amounts of data points that you can collect from the game. And so the concept of Love went like this. We took the NITO ATP Finals, our flagship event. We selected 300 of the most interesting or impactful points. So you could have the championship point, the match points, you could have the Rafa Nadal hot shot, backhand smash. And then we took the data from the arena, from the Hawkeye cameras, and used it to create 300 unique pieces of really beautiful art that were generative.
What exactly were the data points that you took?
So the artwork is essentially pictures of a tennis ball striking a court. The ball's location reflects the real final contact point that it hit the court. It's got a trajectory, a velocity, and when you look through the metadata, you can see who hit it, during which match, at what point. So you as a fan could buy a piece of the tournament's history, a beautiful piece of artwork that has a story behind it. And the project was a breakout success. We launched it with very little expectations, or rather no expectations, and ended up selling out within 20 minutes.
Wow.
We did a Dutch auction, minted out at 1.5 ETH, and this was sort of peak of the...
That's not bull market, right?
This was November 22, so this was this was bleak times. And to date we've done $3.5 million in trading volume thereabouts, and tons of positive PR, plaudits from the industry, and just a wonderful success story for us, both externally but also internally. It's a great case study to go to management and say, look at the potential of this. And this was just one very specific art collection launched with one partner. So amazing success and a great sort of jumping off point for us to push on.
Interesting. And I think super interesting that it was born out of constraints, right? Because I think, as you said before, tennis is not the NBA. You don't do two deals, one with the league and one with the Players Association, and you're done. You have all the rights to the footage and the stills and whatever else. That's far from the case, right?
Correct.
So,
and in a way that helped us because it helped narrow our focus. I think, I've never been in a position where we do have full rights to leverage, for example, athletes. There have been many projects with athlete IP that have not succeeded, and I think it's not to say that having the full range of options makes you sort of lazy. I wouldn't say that, but it's the constraint focused us, and the thing it also made us do was keep the proposition extremely simple. And if I had to point to one thing as to why the project sold out and generated so much buzz, it was the simplicity. Easy to understand, not over-promising, not over-complicated.
Yep.
So,
And you also had a physical component. I believe you've got some of the artwork around the head office.
Yeah, that's correct. We, the artist printed a few of the prints, signed them for us, and we have them up in our HQ in London. And it's a lovely reminder when we walk into the office to see NFT art on the walls.
Very
and,
cool. Very cool.
Remembers the past, but also looks ahead to the future journey.
The future. Nice. Very nice. So it would have been easy for you to just say, well, look, this was a runaway success. Let's just rinse and repeat, maybe tweak it a little bit. But you didn't. You did remain within the kind of art space to kind of continue that sort of theme a year later with posters. So talk to us a little bit about posters. Talk to us, what was the thinking behind it, what worked, what didn't work?
Yep. So you teed that up really nicely. Fast forward a year, we were faced with the question of what are we going to do next? As you said, probably the easy thing to do would have been to rinse and repeat, partner with art blocks, work with a new artist, go again, make a bit of money. But to be honest, that didn't excite us, and in the spirit of innovation, we wanted to see what can we do to create a project that actually appeals to our wider fan base, because that's ultimately the play. Love was a very niche collection, and so we asked the question, what can we do to bring more people in? So we launched posters, and the concept behind posters was accessibility for all. We created a very beautiful event poster together with a world-famous artist, Honor Titus. They were $50, and there were two very interesting elements to it. The first was that it was phygital, so you would buy a physical poster and get its digital twin. And the second was that it was co-created. We partnered with a platform called Artchild, where you could create your own unique design, mint it, and have a unique piece of memorabilia in your home. So I'll be honest, the project did not do as well as we'd hoped. We never set hard targets of what we wanted to achieve in terms of numbers, but the project did not do as we hoped.
And why do you think that was?
When I reflect on it, and of course hindsight is 2020, I think what we lost sight of was exactly the thing that helped us on Love, which was the simplicity. At the end of the day, the posters concept was quite complicated. You had to understand what is an NFT, what is co-creation, what does phygital mean, who's the artist, why is he a big deal? There's just too much going on.
Yep.
And we launched this during the finals in 23, and I have really a newfound appreciation now for how difficult it is to cut through at one of your biggest events. You've got so much going on, right? You've got partners activating, you've got on-court results, and trying to tell a complex story and educate fans and consumers amongst all that noise was really, really hard. That said, despite the numbers not being there, we put together a beautiful project. We got plenty of praise from the fans that did buy them, saying what a wonderful UX, what a wonderful, easy journey to come into Web3.
And you pushed boundaries. I mean, you were brave enough to actually push and do something a bit different.
Thank you, and that is what I'm proud of, that we tried something unique and different, and we learned a lot. And honestly, for me, that's extremely, extremely valuable. And again, credit to our management for saying, this is the spirit of innovation. You try, you make your bets.
Yep.
Some pay off in a very big way, some less so, but it's all learning.
Absolutely, 100%. So we're running short on time. So I want to jump into straight away, what next? So you've done two initiatives. Where's your head now? Where are you looking kind of strategically in the next kind of year or so?
Yes, I'll try and be quick because we've got a minute and 30. But the big play for us is loyalty, Web3 loyalty or fan club, as you might think about it. Really to solve the problem that I referenced at the start, which is that we don't know our fans. There are 1 billion tennis fans, more or less, in the world, and we have very little data on who they are, what they like, how they consume our sport. And when you look at the tennis landscape, everybody likes the sport in a different way. They go to different sets of events, they may have different sets of favorite players, they might like Nike or Adidas or Lacoste. All of that is dark to us. And what does that mean? It means recognizing and rewarding loyal fans is difficult, and it makes retargeting and remarketing very, very hard. So I have this vision of a digital fan club based on the blockchain in which every engagement you have with a sport is essentially recognized in your wallet by a digital token. So going to an event, buying a ticket, following a player.
Nice.
And the reason that you would build this on blockchain is because of the power of interoperability and all of the future value that can unlock for your fans.
This is within the tennis ecosystem and beyond, presumably,
both.
With sponsors, with...
Both, correct. So it solves another issue in that tennis is quite fragmented. We have different stakeholders. We actually have 7 different bodies that run the sport.
Wow.
And again, my pitch internally to our teams is don't build in data silos. Don't build in the Web2 way. We want to be future-proofing ourselves. We want our fan base to be able to experience Wimbledon and US Open, Australian Open, just in the same way as they do the ATP Tour.
Yep.
And likewise, go out into this broad ecosystem of partners. I mean, we have 1,500 commercial partners across the tour between the tournaments and the players. That's a huge network. It's an interesting sell because, as my friend Tarek Naslawi likes to say, it's like selling the first telephone when you talk about interoperability. But that future is coming, and a large part of my job is about education and seeing that vision through.
Fantastic. No, I mean, I think that's super interesting, and I think knowing tennis like I do, I think the opportunity for interoperability, and that's happening anyway, right, with other initiatives, between the different tour stops, between the slams, between all of the stakeholders, is there for the taking. I suspect it will take a while, but kudos for you for pursuing that.
Thank you very much.
Our time is up, but thank you, Mark, for coming. Much appreciated, and for sharing your insights.
Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.